everybody, Ryan here from Music City Live. Welcome to the show. I'm here with my guest, Mike Denney. Mike owns and operates and is president, CEO, and chief bottle washer of the multi-award-winning independent record label and management company, MDM Recordings.
Yes.
Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Ryan. We've been trying to do this for a while. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, we were just talking a few minutes ago about jet setting and how we're both, living crazy lives in different ways, but it can be crazy sometimes. So thanks for making the time.
Oh, it's always good. I love doing these things.
Where are you from?
I was born in Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah.
Moved around a little bit in Ontario, settled in Niagara-on-the-Lake when I was 12 or 13 years old. Stayed there till I was about 29.
It's a great spot.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I still have family there. So, and then I moved to Toronto to chase the music thing and wanted to work in the music industry. And you got to be there. You had to be there back in those days. And I was there for 22 years. And 3 years ago, moved to Grimsby, Ontario. So I'm back now in the Niagara Peninsula, and it's all good. And I planned that. My mom and my brother are still in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Yep. My sister's in Brantford. I'm in the middle, still close enough to the airport when I need to go.
Exactly.
So it's all
what drew you into music way back when? What was it that pulled you there?
I started in Niagara-on-the-Lake as a DJ for parties and weddings and baseball tournaments and all the rest of that stuff.
That's cool.
I've tried to play musical instruments over the years. I just can't do it. I just don't have the brain width for it. But I loved music, and when I was DJing years and years ago, it was 45s, right? You would go from turntable to turntable, not the way it is now.
I mean, I know I might look young, but I did play. I was a DJ as well, and I did also play 45s.
I just got to the point where I could memorize the inserts of every single 45, and I knew exactly what record company that was and what record company where they were distributed by.
Wow.
And that was where I kind of got into, okay, this is kind of cool. I want to take this a little bit further. My goal was to work for a major label. So I was like, small town Niagara-on-the-Lake, how am I going to do that? And one day I read an article in the St. Catharines Standard that was looking for merchandising reps for a company that was putting CDs into department stores called the Handelman Company. And they were huge, they call it a rack jobber at that point. And I applied for the job and I got the job. And that was kind of my foray into it. And then I convinced my parents to let me go to school, the Trebas Institute for Recording Arts in Toronto.
Oh, yeah, I saw your picture. They send out all the alumni emails.
Yeah,
I saw you on
I'm
there,
still
man.
there. And then that's how I met John Harris, and John was starting the Harris Institute of the Arts the next year. So I did Trebas for 1 year, Harris for 1 year, and then
Harris,
from there
that's right.
moved into a company called Pinned Off Record Sales, which owned Music World at that point.
Okay, yeah.
And they had a sub-distribution company called The One Stop, which serviced mom and pop independent record stores. And
nice.
that's where I got my start.
That's cool. And so you went to Toronto. At what point was that? When would that have been?
Would have been early to mid-90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I've been doing this. This is my 35th year.
Wow.
So when I started, CDs were coming in and vinyl was going out, and now vinyl's coming back in again. So I've done the full thing.
That's wild. It's and vinyl's vinyl's actually pretty big, man.
It is.
I got a vinyl collection at home from the years ago when I was DJing, like you. But I mean, but I've started collecting vinyl again, big time. So much so that I got to kind of keep myself off the internet when I'm on there, because sometimes it can get out of control. It's too easy to order vinyl to your house now.
It's a lot easier to do a lot of things at home from your computer now.
Yeah. Are you so some of the artists that you guys are working with, are you guys putting out albums then, like actual records?
The only one that we've really done it with at this point has been Jess Moskaluke.
Okay.
I went to her a couple of years ago, and I'm like, hey, you've got enough songs now, and maybe you can take some greatest hits and some songs that we didn't release to radio that you really like and enjoy, and let's put it out in a package. So that's about as much as we've experimented with it. It's still pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're dealing with what's left of record retail as well, too, because they don't really purchase it. It's more on a consignment type basis.
Oh, is that right?
And you've got to pay the mechanicals on all that physical product on what you manufacture, not on what you sell, which makes it a
wow, has that ever changed, eh?
Yeah, big time.
That's wild. Yeah, big because, I grew up like you, going to a record store, buying records, buying CDs, and DJing with them, right? I mean, I was in record pools back in the day too, but there's a lot you didn't get.
Yeah.
So you had no choice. If you wanted to have, you know, certain songs, you had to go and buy them.
Yeah.
And those stores are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so much product there. I couldn't imagine it being the format like what you're saying now then.
It's crazy. And like, you can still put a bunch of CDs into Walmart, but you've got to pay for the production. You've got to pay for the mechanical licensing fees, which they're not cheap. They're not expensive. But when you're looking at manufacturing 5,000 units of product that you then own with no guarantees it's going to sell through, not because the music isn't good, just because people are not buying CDs to the same level, or vinyl. Vinyl's a different beast, but you still have to manufacture the product to get it out there.
Yeah, right.
And your timelines are a lot longer as well, too, in terms of from the time you place the order to the time you actually get finished goods.
Yeah, that's true. I noticed a lot of artists getting traction selling records on shows. Like we do a bunch of different festivals, obviously, through my dad's company, PA Shop, and I've gone to the merch booth a bunch of times, and I see a lot of artists, you know, that do have albums, and they're selling. You know, I see people walking around with them.
We will still manufacture CDs for offstage sales, but we won't manufacture CDs for physical retail sales.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can do it in a smaller run. It's cost effective, and people will, if they go see an artist, they still want to have that autographed and have that piece to take home. So that still works as a merchandising.
So what's your sort of, because I mean, there's a lot of genres of music. What sort of genres drove you in the beginning, and how did you sort of get to where you are now in terms of like the genres that you're into, like that you like and stuff?
So my goal was always to work in sales and marketing, and my passion has always been artist development. Okay. And I've been fortunate enough through my time at the major labels, Universal Music, and my time at Sony Music, and a distribution company prior to starting my own company, where I was exposed to every genre of music that was out there, and I had to work with a variety of different artists. When you're working for a major label, you are working with every artist that's coming through the door or on tour or whatever. There's nuances in every genre of music. And when I moved out of
That's a good way to put it, by the
way. Yeah. Not my first rodeo, Ryan.
Yeah.
When I moved into Fusion 3 Distribution, and I was heading up sales for them for English Canada, they were based in Montreal, I really started to get a handle on what it would take to run an independent record company. And I signed an artist by the name of Aaron Pritchett, who was a country artist.
Yeah, okay.
And it was for an album called Big Wheel, and he was one of the hottest independent, unsigned Canadian country acts at that period of time. Cool. And I started going out on the road with Aaron and his guitar player manager, Mitch Merritt, who's still with me and doing creative A&R stuff for MDM Recordings.
Cool. Nice.
And Carmen Choney, who we co-manage some acts together now, and she's Jess Moskaluke's tour manager, and that's how I met those guys. Then I was packaged off at the height of the recession in 2008, but I had incorporated MDM Recordings before I left. And our office was in the basement of where Factor was. Factor is the foundation to assist Canadian talent on recordings. Yep. And Heather Ostertag, who was the president at that time, said, you need to get to the CCMAs in Winnipeg in 2008. She says, I will cover your delegate badge so that you can get into all of the events. You need to cover your hotel and your airfare. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Because I still was getting, after I had left Fusion, was still getting phone calls from various different artists asking for help in sales and marketing strategy and all the rest of that. Sure. So MDM was created to be a stopgap until I got my next corporate gig. But that never happened.
Ah, I see.
And now we turned 17 years old, May 6th.
Congratulations.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. Crazy. This thing got way bigger than what I ever thought it was going to be. Yeah, nowhere near as big as the warehouse that you've got here, Ryan, but in my own little world, it's gotten way bigger.
Well, that's generally how it can go, right? When you put 100% in, and you go all in, right? Yeah. That's how it sort of evolves around you, and you don't even realize it until sometimes you look back and go, "Whoa!"
It was like failure wasn't an option, and we were talking before we went on. And failure just was not an option. This had to work because I had a mortgage that I had to pay, and I had to figure it out. started it in 2008. And then in 2009, I got a phone call from Mitch. He had parted ways, and Carmen had parted ways with Aaron, and he had demos of a kid by the name of Chad Brownlee, who was the final cut from the Vancouver Canucks camp. He was a pro hockey player, and he was cut. He was the last one cut from the team, and at that point, he made the decision he didn't want to play hockey anymore. He wanted to get into music.
That's a big decision.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's the only thing he ever knew.
Yeah.
And he sent Mitch some demos, and I was both excited and nervous. There's, hockey players tend to be a little promiscuous, can we say?
Sure.
Which can be troubles on the road. And I was like, I really don't want to get into that, Mitch. Like, I love the kid's voice. And he was like, no, Chad is much different. I've met him a few times. He's got a degree in psychology. He is a smart dude that's in this. And I was like, okay, if you can convince him that we can move his career forward faster in the country music genre that I know the sales and marketing end, that's generic, but country music, then let's do it, I'll partner. And we did, and we had a good run with Chad. We put out 5 albums.
Amazing.
We were a top 5 male with him in Canada at the height of it, and we did a lot of great things with Chad, and Chad put MDM Recordings on the map as far as a country label back in, that would have started 2009, 2010.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then it's just gone from there.
Yeah, that's cool. And what does that transition look like? Like because I'm assuming is that what happened? He sort of transitioned on into like a major label, or what happened there?
Success does weird things.
Oh, yeah, there's a statement.
So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the Juno Awards in 2017. At that point, we went from ground zero that we talked about to having a radio market share in Canada of 6.75%.
Which is huge.
For an independent label,
that's
massive.
Huge. Yeah, that's big.
We had Chad Brownlee on the radio. We had Bobby Wills on the radio. And I found, just after we signed Chad, a 19-year-old girl by the name of Jess Moskaluke. And we still work with Jess today. She's now 34, and by the time this airs, she will have announced a 41-city cross-Canada tour that's coming out in the fall of 2025. We've been together since day one. At the time that Chad was coming up, there was no females breaking through Canadian country, except for Jess. We had a song called Cheap Wine and Cigarettes that we are closing in on double platinum now. She was the first artist to have a gold award, a gold single in Canada since Shania Twain. And everything just amped up to the point where in 2017, we got 2 Juno nominations.
Saw that.
As an independent label.
Yeah.
Which was the beginning of the end. Because one of them's going to win.
Yeah.
Potentially, and one of them's going to lose.
Right.
Their sales numbers were equal. Their radio chart position numbers were equal. Their streaming was equal. Everything was equal.
Right.
We only had 1 vote as a Karis Juno voting member. That was me. But I had the major record companies coming to me. My distribution partner at that point was Universal Music. And they're like, we need to know where to place our votes. And I'm like, I haven't even talked to Chad or Jess yet. Give me 24 hours. At the same point, I was having another private conversation with Steve Cody, who was VP of promotion at Warner Music, unrelated to Junos. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, we don't have anybody in this category. Our votes are going towards a female artist from Saskatchewan. And I was like, hold on a second, Steve. I haven't talked to Chad. I haven't talked to Jess. Give me 24 hours. And we sat on the phone with both artists.
Wow.
My core team, just trying to figure out what we were going to do. And at the end, both Jess and Chad just said, Mike, make the decision.
Oh, wow.
We don't want to know, just
that's
make
heavy,
the decision.
Man. That's heavy.
So we fast forward to Juno night. Our seats are in row L and M. Way up
Sure.
at the side of the arena.
Yeah.
2 minutes before we go to air on the television show, our publicist comes whipping up the stairs. And she's like, Mike, Carmen, Mitch, Chad, Jess, come with me.
Uh-oh.
So we're moving down to now row B. And just as everybody's getting settled, our publicist goes, Jess, sit on the aisle. And I was like,
wow.
oh, no. It's the beginning of the end. So it was the greatest high you could ever have as an artist manager and a label owner.
Sure.
But I knew that it was going to be the end of our working relationship with Chad, and it was a few months later on down the line, because it's just the way that it happened.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting, you know, like hearing you talk about it. I mean, how do you even make that call, man? I mean, it's just it's crazy because you know you're so passionate about both of your artists. You know, it's like they're like your own children. It's like family. You know, it's like how do you even make that call? That's crazy to me.
It was very stressful.
Yeah, no
In an
doubt.
exciting, in what was supposed to be an exciting time for our company.
Of
as well,
course.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part that people don't see in here, right? I mean, it's the sort of the challenges. I managed a country act for a little while, and that was interesting. Managing, I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now because
Sure.
it's a good time. Managing bands versus solo acts I say solo acts, but I mean like an artist that you build a band around. You know, I think it's very, very different, and it's something I actually haven't talked a lot about on the show. Is like the difference between those, but you know, you become family no matter whether it's session players and a solo artist, or if it's a complete band that you can miraculously somehow keep together and from strangling each other. But I think it's there's so much that people don't see behind the scenes. And not always just even in the people's personal lives, like you mentioned, the hockey players and the promiscuousness and all that stuff. There's just so many moving parts. But that story you just told, I mean, it gave me goosebumps, man. I mean, I can't even imagine being in that position. It's crazy.
It was. There's more to the story about just some text messages that I was getting from another artist that was just not very happy.
Yeah, right.
That they had lost at the same time that my artist was walking on stage to accept the award. At the same time, I'm looking at my other artist going, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
Wow, that's crazy.
Craziest night I've ever had in my career. Crazy.
And Jess is you're still working with Jess, like you said, right?
Yeah, we actually just renewed her recording contract in the last little while, and we're talking about peaks. That was the peak in 2017 for us. 9 months later, we had lost Chad. We had lost another band, duo, female-male duo by the name of Leaving Thomas. And then we had lost another act called the Lovelocks, which was 2 females, within 9 months.
Wow.
We shut Jess down at that period of time to take a break so that she could go live life and do some writing and all the rest of that stuff.
Sure.
We went from 6.5% market share at radio to less than 1% in 9 months.
What's your take on that, on with bands versus artists that you sort of put session players around? What's your take on that?
I prefer to deal with single artists, only because there's less voices in the room when you're trying to make decisions and mold the artist. Depending on where if it's brand new, it's way easier to mold an artist to come up through the ranks than what it is to mold a band.
Yes.
Because there's more personalities in there.
I agree.
Success breeds egos and other problems. We have not really had a ton. I've had a lot of duos. I've had duos, 3 different duos over the years. I've had one band from Saskatchewan. Mitch Merritt had a band that it was kind of his baby. He looked after it. I didn't have to worry about it.
Sure.
And the Red Hill Valleys. And other than that, I've been strictly solo artists, male and female, over the years for that reason.
It's easier, yeah. I agree.
Nothing's easy, though.
Well, no.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
this business is not easy.
Poor choice of words.
Yeah.
But, no, it's easier, I guess.
Yes.
Like you say, but you're still managing chaos. I mean, it's still organized chaos no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. That kind of falls in with what I was thinking and what I've sort of talked to other people about on the show. Mm-hmm. What makes MDM different than other independents?
I know, because I get people coming to me all the time, both people within the industry and other artists that are in the genre as well too, who just make mention of how close we are as a family, how passionate we are, how honest we are. You get the good, the bad, and the ugly with us. But it's passion over dollars for us. It's trying to find, sign, and develop the best talent we can.
Sure.
With realistic goals. That, at the end of the day, we hope everybody understands, is it the music business and you are trying to make a profit from creative, but it's managing that creative line and the business line to make it all come together to be successful.
I've spoken at some conferences over the years. It was some years ago now that I've spoken, but not much in this regard has changed, in that you need a really good team of people to make a career go. More, I would say more now than ever before.
Absolutely.
So that's a, I would say that's bang on. I mean, just from even this interaction, I can tell how passionate you are about what you do and what, and some of the, things that, even that story that you told me, it's like, I can feel that energy, and it's moving in the right direction. And that's what artists need. They need to be moving in the right direction. Because like you said, there can be a lot of voices, even as a solo artist. Sometimes you can have people giving you their opinions and they're not always the right ones.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, to go back to the Chad thing, when we parted ways, it was not good. Like, we had literally worked together for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. You're talking to each other 10, 15, 20 times a day.
Yeah.
And then it's over, and it was over.
Yeah, it was like breaking up with a family member.
Yeah, or a marriage breaking up. And it's only been, realistically speaking, in the last 18 to 24 months where we're a little bit more cordial towards each other. He was going out on tour with Jason Blaine and Jason McCoy a little while back in the early part of 2025, and I was looking at his body of work with us, and there was 2 or 3 records there that had gone gold that we hadn't celebrated. So I reached out to Jason McCoy, and I'm like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Can you guys present it to Chad on the show, on one of the tour dates? And he's like, I got a better idea. Like, we're doing national television. We could surprise it there, and that would help ticket sales. So I'm like, that's even better. So
crazy.
We got that done, and I got one of the nicest text messages from Chad that I've had in years. And now we're talking about revisiting his back catalog, because in the day and age that we're in with streaming, it's all about content and new digital releases and all the rest of that stuff.
Of course.
Well, we're sitting on a body of work that is really good. And we've been working with a producer in Vancouver by the name of Dan Swimner, who is reimagining tracks for us.
Oh, wow.
So I sent Chad 6 songs of Jess Moskaluke's that Dan had re-envisioned that we're in the process of releasing now when we get breaks in her schedule. And he said, I really like that. He says, can I do 2 songs from each one of my 5 records? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. It's way cheaper. The stems are already done. Now it's just playing around and adding some stuff in. And during that conversation, he was like, you know what? I didn't realize it at the time, but what you and Mitch did for me, I had no idea. And he says, I really, really appreciate what you did for me, and I didn't realize it at the time. That was great. That was huge compliment.
That's big
on the back end.
Yeah, right.
We were talking just before we took a break there, where we had gone like this, and then we went like this, and you're talking about the team. Well, the team now is 15, 16 people who make some portion of their living from what we do as MDM Recordings. Well, if you shut down your biggest remaining artists and you just lost 3 and you only have 6 on the roster to begin with, the beast still needs to get fed.
Yeah, right.
So we were in, I'm a team player, we were in big financial trouble. I was in $300,000 worth of debt that I had to figure out how to get out of. And my gut is going, just keep going. Just keep going. And I knew that we had shut Jess down, and we were going to Australia, and we were getting ready to relaunch Jess. And at the same time in 2008, Mitch had found an artist in BC by the name of Tyler Joe Miller. He came to my hotel room in the CCMAs in Hamilton, played a couple acoustic songs, and I'm like, you're Luke Combs of Canada. I said it to myself, and we signed a deal, and we recorded with TJ. And then we went to Australia with Jess, and she had 3 brand new songs. And I'm like, we have to act like a major label to reintroduce Jess as the queen of our label and do something that's outrageous. And it was outrageously expensive. So we flew as many of the radio music directors as we could in Canada to Kelowna, BC, and we paired Jess's 3 new songs with a winery partner that we had. Nice. And the wine was matched to her songs. So it was a conversation like this, where Jess was talking about her new single. The sommelier guy was talking about the wines and how it tied into the whole thing. And then we played the song. Everybody was doing a tasting, and then we had an amazing dinner that night. the whole thing cost us about $50,000. But on the day we found out we were doing the event was the day that one of our funding agencies declined our marketing grant. That was going to cover the whole thing. So that was pretty stressful. But the first song that we released from those 3 songs with Jess in October of 2019 was a track called Country Girls, which went on to be her first #1 single.
Amazing.
So
that's incredible.
At the same time that we were doing that, we are grooming Tyler Joe Miller to get ready to release tracks.
Right.
We go out, we do the first radio tour with him. We drop the first single on Christmas Day, a track called Pillow Talking. Then COVID hits in March of 2020.
Yep.
He's the first Canadian independent artist to go #1 on his debut single.
Wow.
His second
That's
single,
crazy.
a track called I Would Be Over Me Too, goes #1. So now he's had back-to-back #1 songs. He's never played a show because it's still COVID. Completely shut down.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we launched this kid into the stratosphere.
That's wild.
So we went from bankrupt to not making millions, but we got ourselves back on a steady ground of being able to compete again and get back out there. And that was
that's wild.
that was amazing to me. And then at that point, we signed 5 Roses, a duo out of Montreal, male-female duo out of Montreal, and Donna Merrill, who's an Indigenous artist from Winnipeg that I really like. And we were back to a full-time roster again, and we were releasing music, and everything was going well. And then I had put together a trip to the UK in the fall of 2023.
Yeah.
Songs and stories, unapologetically Canadian. So we had an agent over in the UK that put the trip together.
Cool.
We played London, Edinburgh, Scotland, Liverpool, Manchester, and Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, wow.
So we came right out of the CCMAs, took everybody to Toronto, and the next day we flew to UK. And it was like, let's get to the UK, we can have a break, and then get ready to roll. So that was Jess Moskaluke, 5 Roses, Donna Merrill, Tyler Joe Miller. That was beginning of October 2023.
Yeah.
8 weeks later, 60% of my roster was gone.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
2 of them on the same
what
day.
happened? What happened? What can you talk about? Put it that way.
Well, let's just say there's still some legalities going on with one of them
Fair enough.
that I can't talk about. The duo, it was just time. They'd been together for 7 or 8 years. They'd been with us for 3 years. It just wasn't meshing the way that it needed to, and we were getting ready to go back in the studio. And I knew they were fighting. I'm like, look, guys, if you can't get your act together, I'm not putting another $150,000 into this because it's a waste of money. So I'm like, you guys go away. If you can't figure it out, that's totally cool. I always loved Savannah Jade. She was the female part of it, and I'm like, Jade, whatever happens, you have a home because I believe in you. I think you're an exceptional talent. That's where that started. With Dawn, it was just time. We ended it amicably. He wanted to go back into a singer-songwriter, rootsy, folky type thing, and we had tried to get him on the radio as best we could in country radio. We just couldn't make it happen to the level that you need to really make it successful. And then the other one was Tyler Joe Miller, and I was co-managing with the same person for 5 Roses and Tyler Joe Miller, and those things happened on the same day.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Crazy story.
Wow.
Crazy story.
Yeah, well, this is all part of what people don't see and hear, right? I mean, there's so many moving parts to getting an artist from here to here. And I was mentioning earlier that I talked at some of these conferences, and that was usually the question. It's like, hey, I'm here in my career. How do I go here? And I'm paraphrasing, but my answer was basically build a team.
Yeah.
Like you need a team of people to go from here to here, and it's not always like it's not a straight road either,
Yeah.
right? Like it can be a crazy bumpy road.
Yeah. I mean, I can complicate that story even further if you want. You got time?
Go for it, man. Do it. This is a long format show for a reason.
I am 63 years old. And this is a young man's game that we're playing. And I'm like, you know what? When I turn 60, I'm like, I've got to start figuring out an exit strategy somewhere down the line. Because I own the company, but I own and or co-own a bunch of masters that have value in today's intellectual property world that we're in, where everybody's looking to purchase content.
Of course.
I got the company evaluated long before any of the trials and tribulations started happening, and started teasing it out there. And BMG came to me. And originally it was going to be a straight-up purchase of the company and me staying on to be their consultant for country in Canada, because they own Broken Bow Records in the U.S., but they didn't have anybody on staff who really knew the market the way that I know the market. And that's not me tooting my own horn. It's just I've been doing this for 16 years. You kind of figure out the lay of the land.
Sure.
It went from BMG purchasing the company to BMG doing a asset sale and a global distribution deal.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because they were distributed at that period of time by Warner Music. I was being distributed by Universal in Canada, Symphonic Distribution in the U.S., and ABC Music Corp. Australia and New Zealand, various different deals. It morphed from a global distribution deal with BMG to a whole bunch of people getting fired, including the guy that I was originally talking to in Canada, to a asset sale with BMG and a global distribution deal with Warner Music ADA. And I'm like, well, I know Kristen Burke, who's the president of Warner Music. Her and I worked together at Universal Music in the national sales office. She was an administrative assistant, and I was doing director of sales for classical, jazz, and strategic marketing. And I'm like, that would be amazing. So I get my assets, my catalog is with BMG. BMG is with Warner worldwide. I get Kristen and Warner worldwide. This is like amazing for things like Juno Awards and CCMA voting and all the rest of that stuff that goes in it.
Yeah.
So I know that we've signed a letter of intent. They're going through the back end of financials, of recording contracts, and coming back to me to figure out what is all happening. Then we hit the wall with said artist, and I have to pause everything. So I go to my lawyer. I'm like, call BMG LA, tell them what's going on, and just tell them we got to pause this deal. He comes back to me. He says, yeah, no problem. He says, Mike, they really want to do this deal. As soon as you get it sorted, they want to move full speed ahead. I'm like, okay. I'd never been through the litigation process before, so to me, this is like, well, I've done it in a couple of months. Well, we're still in litigation. So I've had to pause all that. But what happened was I get a phone call mid-December. So I've lost 60% of my artists from October 13th to December 16th. I get a phone call from my lawyer, all excited. He says, you're not going to believe it. He says they want to close off the portion of the catalog deal that they can right now. They're going to hold back that until it's sorted. And I'm like, before Christmas? And he's like, yeah. He says, I was playing golf down in Orlando. He says, you just need to sign the contract. It's coming. It'll be in my hands Monday morning. I'm like, what an amazing Christmas present.
Yeah.
Get a phone call Monday morning from my lawyer going, they just pulled the entire deal off.
Oh, my gosh.
What else can go wrong? This thing was 9 or 10 months in the works.
Wow.
And it just went completely sideways. So
yeah, completely vaporized.
Legal fees on top of not having a roster, on top of having to rebuild the entire company again.
Wow.
It's crazy. But
it is crazy.
I'm starting, now that I've been through it twice, I'm like, oh, I see how this works. There's peaks and, sorry, hit the mic. There's peaks and valleys.
The road is bumpy for the management company too, not just the artist.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the label is affected by that as well too, because we manage all of the artists that are signed to the company. It's the way we've operated from day one. In the early days, it was out of necessity, and then we just developed a model that allowed us to be able to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, for the most part, as long as everybody's bringing communication skills to the table, to continue on and continue to work and get things done in a positive way. So yeah, it was a major hit.
Yeah, that's wild. So your roster is back up now. Who's on the label now?
I'm super excited. We're actually throwing an event May 14th in Toronto at the Horseshoe.
Okay.
So I need to back up again. So we had lost the roster. We had lost this deal. And once again, I don't know what it is with Jess, but we always seem to shut her down at this period of time when we're in complete chaos. So we shut Jess down to let her live and just let her concentrate on writing. And we finally got to the place where she was ready to go. And so we did a launch event in November at Warner Music. Flew in radio, influencers, industry, and all the rest of that stuff, and let them listen to 4 brand new songs. So Jess came out and played the songs verse and chorus acoustically, and then we played the fully production thing, and that set up Jess. So we're back out now with Jess, fresh music. She's got top 20 right now with her current single, Life For Me. And we have just announced, by the time this airs, a full headline tour with Jess in 2025. 37 cities, 8 weeks, coast to coast, 500 to 1,500 seat theaters.
Wow.
Theaters, bars, clubs. It's amazing.
Amazing.
I've been working with Jess since she was 19 years old. She's now 34. And Josh Stumpf is our newest sign into the company. So when all this chaos was going on, I was actually on the road with Jess because she had a tour coming called the Winter Wonderland Tour. And she was doing bracelets and stuff like that you can't take off.
Oh, okay.
And we ran contests with the radio stations.
Oh, crazy.
To have her come in and put on this permanent jewelry stuff. And it worked out exceptionally well. But there's chaos going on with the label.
Sure.
And we were waiting to see what was going to happen with Five Roses song and a Tyler Joe Miller song before we started letting the word out that neither of these acts were with us anymore.
Mm.
So things didn't go the way we wanted. I had to start making phone calls. One of the people that I spoke to was Dana Burgoyne, who's the music director at Pure Country in Toronto. And she's like, I'm sorry to hear that, but she said, I'm going to send you this kid by the name of Josh Stumpf. He submitted for iHeart Future Star. It's not good enough, but there's something with this kid's voice.
Oh, yes, there is.
So
I listened to it today. Anyway, carry on. She's got the ear for it.
She sent us the demo. We had 5 minutes before Jess and I were going into a radio station in Red Deer, Alberta, and we popped it in, and within 10 seconds, I'm looking at her. She's looking at me going, this is incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were going to Saskatoon the next day, and Josh was living in Saskatoon at that point. He's 21 years old. He's never been outside the province.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I DM him, and I'm like, hey, we're coming in. You know, Dana Burgoyne flipped us your song. I really like your voice. Love to meet you. Just have a chat and all the rest of it. Oh, yeah, hell yeah. I said, meet us at 5 o'clock at this restaurant downtown Saskatoon. So he comes in, and Jess is there. And I can tell right away. He's like, that's Jess Moskaluke. Like, he's starstruck. He's 21 years old.
Sure.
And it was great. We had a lot of fun just kind of picking his brain a little bit and getting to know him. And then it dawned on me that Kurt Dahl, who's our entertainment lawyer, also lives in Saskatoon. Well, all hell is breaking loose with the label. And at that time, Jess goes, we should text Kurt to come over and join us. So I'm like, sure, do that. So Kurt comes over after he puts his kids to bed. We've now had a few drinks.
Yeah,
because it's pretty raw. This is 3 days after everything has gone down and sideways. Kurt shows up, and he's my lawyer. I know there's going to be legal cases, and we probably get into discussions in front of Josh that we shouldn't have as a 21-year-old kid in his first experience of the music business. And then it dawned on me. It was like, oh, wait a minute. We probably shouldn't be doing this. And I stopped, and I'm like, Josh, I got to apologize, man. We've had a couple of crazy days. And he's like, Mike, this is the greatest day of my life. And I was like, awesome. This is awesome. So we started the conversations with him. That was in October of 2023. Jess's tour came back to Saskatoon in December. We hooked up with him again, had him play a couple of songs acoustically, and I'm like, let's do this. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
So on that radio tour that we were doing with Jess, we were in Winnipeg. And it was the end of the day, killing time, having a glass of wine, just catching up on the day. And Jess goes, I got a question. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. She says, I think I might want to throw my hand into artist management. What do you think? And I'm like, well, your timing's perfect because we're going to be signing new talent. And Savannah, Jade, you already know, and we're going to move forward with Josh. And I'm like, I think you would make a great addition to the management team. She says, I still want to be an artist first and foremost. And I'm like, you have to be an artist first and foremost because I'm counting on you right now to generate a little revenue. But I think you'd be a huge addition. So Jess is now part of our management team for Josh and for Savannah, Jade, in addition to Carmen Choney, Mitch Merritt, myself. And she's been an amazing addition to that side of the business. She likes it. She's good at it. The artists love her because everything they are going through or will go through, she's already been through, yeah. And she can present it in a way that they grasp onto every word that she says. So that's been a huge addition for us.
Wow.
So we're now 4 songs recorded. Most of 2024 is spent recording. So we did 4 songs recorded with Jess, 4 songs recorded with Savannah Jade, 4 songs recorded with Josh Stumpf, and the other act is we did 3 songs with them, the Red Hill Valleys out of Hamilton, Ontario. That's the current roster right now.
Nice.
So we did Jess's big launch event in November, and now I want to do something for our developing artists. So we're doing a showcase thing at the Horseshoe on May 14th that'll bring in the industry and the influencers, and we'll do it all over again.
That's cool. Jer, we got some photos, right? I pulled up from the website, just so people can have some sort of frame of reference if they haven't seen these people before. So I just picked a few, just select pics from her site. That's Jess there.
Yep.
And she's been doing it how long?
She was 19 when I found her, and she was a YouTube artist when I found her.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a Saturday morning. I was just scrolling through Facebook, and I came across this 19-year-old kid who had 2 videos posted on original songs and 500,000 views on both of them. Jeez. And I was like, copied the links. I sent it to every single record company president, artist manager, agent I knew, and I'm like, who's working with this girl? And everybody came back going, amazing voice, never heard of her. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I know pretty much the landscape. And so I creeped her. I was like, Jess Moskaluke at hotmail.com. Jess.moskaluke. Yahoo.ca. Honest to God, I did this probably 25 emails before I got the right one.
Wow.
And then I made sure that the MDM template was on the bottom so that she didn't think I was a creep. And I sent her a note just saying, who are you? Like, who you're working with, and are you interested in having a chat? And she replied back about 24 hours later, and I think she was more excited that it was Chad Brownlee's record company because Chad's a good-looking dude. And
yeah, right.
I think she had a crush on Chad for a little while, and that's kind of where that started. And,
wow.
Yeah, she was signed at that point to a publishing deal in Nashville.
There's Josh.
Yes, sir.
So I before this chat, I threw on one of his tunes, and man, yeah, the voice is there. Oh. The voice is real. I mean, I went to Chris Stapleton right away, which is like, just there's something about the tone, right, that reminds me of Chris. And I mean, Chris on so many levels is such an incredible artist. But it was weird because it was there's something uniquely original about Josh's voice too, but he's got that raspiness, he's got that sound, and it's like I heard it right away. I mean, I literally listened to the song for like 20 seconds, and I knew, just like like the programmer from the station knew, right? Like, it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
that song. This is the interesting. The song you listened to was "Drink Me a Lullaby."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
$750 in production to make that.
Come on, man.
I howled when I first met him. I'm like, okay, who wrote the song? He goes, I wrote it myself. And I'm like, how much did you spend on production? And he says $750, and I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So we just finished week and a half ago a cross-country radio tour with Josh to get him introduced to all the radio music directors and promo directors and all the rest of that stuff. And it was the most fun I've had. I go out on every first radio tour with every artist we sign.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a priority for me, and I'm invested not only passionately but figuratively with dollars and cents, and I need to make sure that our radio partners understand that as well, too.
Of course.
Taking a 22-year-old kid across Canada who, when we signed him, didn't have a passport, had never really been out of the province.
Yeah,
you
said that, yeah.
So his first, it took 2 months. We couldn't do anything with him for the first 2 months. We had to wait for the passport to come in. The passport comes in. His first trip ever outside the province of any magnitude is to Nashville on a writing trip.
Oh my goodness.
His second trip is to Nashville, and his third trip is to the CCMAs.
Life is good.
So to take him now on a cross-country radio tour when he's never been downtown Toronto before.
That's wild.
And he lives in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Oh,
So
yeah,
for
that's
him walking down the
crazy.
street it was hilarious. But it was so real because he was like, dude, there's like train tracks in the middle of the Queen. Like, I'm like, it's for the subway, dude. Like the streetcars. He says, we don't have this back home. And I'm like, well, this is how people get around. And he had no concept of that.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not saying he's dumb. He's not dumb. He's
No,
exceptionally smart.
Yeah, his
but
frame of reference is
worldly
his world, right?
And never really had the opportunity to get outside. So the upside for this kid is massive. Massive. I always send music out to our major label friends in Nashville, and when they start replying back, asking what's going on with the kid, you got something there. And
Absolutely.
We've had that, which is great. And
That's
to
so
go back
cool.
we've heard Chris Stapleton, Tyler Childers, Morgan Wallen, John Party,
Oh yeah, John Party.
Eric Church,
Yeah.
all of it combined in there.
I
which
would
is great.
I would agree with all those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's exciting. That's what I love. I love, as we're sitting here today, it's ground zero. We've done all the back end, all the heavy lifting in this kid. We released the single on April 25th. And I already know I know it's going to go.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
That's amazing. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
And congrats to him too. And and sky's the limit, man. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a big world out there, and there's lots to see, and
Yeah.
enjoy it. And don't get scared. Damn it. There's so many great artists that somehow, some way, in the early parts of their career get scared and don't capture it all, and don't take those chances.
Yeah, I've worked with artists like that too.
Yeah, me
where
too.
they're exceptionally talented and they just get afraid.
Yeah.
And afraid to the point where you want it more as the record company and the manager than they do.
I've been there, man.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
It's a freaky thing.
It's brutal.
Freaky thing.
Because you can see it. It's like right there. It's so close. I know. I've been
Yeah.
there. It's brutal. And
Yeah.
you just got to let it go.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a mutual friend, Jay Allen,
Yeah.
and me and him produced an artist together, and it was exactly that. We just had to let it go. And
Yeah.
it was a conversation him and I had where I said, dude, am I crazy? And he's like, no, man, he's just scared. He's just, he's scared, and there's stuff going on in his life, and we're just going to have to let this one go. And Jay actually had written some of the tunes with him, co-write. So Jay actually stood to make some points on the tunes too. And, so yeah, I've been there. It can be crazy, but yeah, I mean, good on Josh, man. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
What's Jade? What's going on with Jade? That's cool.
Yeah, Jade's amazing. She is from Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah, quite the look.
Oh, she's got her own thing going
Yeah,
on.
that's cool.
Her first language is French.
Yeah.
Thick French accent, which I love because it's not the norm in country music. And she started singing English country while she was part of Five Roses. And had never really gotten into the writing aspect of it.
Okay.
And now she's fully immersed in the writing thing. We released her first single August of 2024. Went top 25 for us in Canada. Second single is out right now. It's doing okay. It's a tougher slog on second single when you're outside the artist development radio programs where you get instant love at radio. Second single, you're in the pile. You're in with Dallas and the Reclaws and Jess and everybody else. So it takes a little bit longer. But we've gotten on 2 songs with her over 2 million streams on the first 2 songs combined between Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. And she's playing some big festivals. She's playing Cavendish in PEI this year, which is huge. Big Valley Jamboree in Alberta, which is huge. And
That's huge, yeah.
just got announced to play Lasso as well, which is in Montreal, which is a massive festival.
Yeah, it is.
M from Montreal and Osheaga and all the rest of that stuff. And it's one of the coolest venues ever because it's 2 stages and they just kind of...
My brother and me have talked about this. I haven't been to it, but
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
So cool.
Yeah,
So
he went there. I think he went to audition some PA or some. He went there for some reason,
Yeah.
and got to go check it out. And he told me it was pretty cool.
It's really interesting what's going on in Quebec in regards to English country music. It is exploding, even though
Really?
Exploding. This was the first radio tour that I went on. Just to go back to Josh for a second, where we actually stopped in Montreal and in Quebec City to do small listening events with industry folks, festival buyers, and the limited radio people that are out there. because it's starting to happen big time in that province.
Interesting.
Big time. So,
Yeah, I mean, if I never would have known that, so that's interesting that you say that. 'Cause that's really cool.
yeah.
Because I mean, I love country music, and not, and I mean, I didn't always love country music. When I started off as a DJ, I was into dance music and stuff, but I found that what drew me into music in general was just this sort of journey, right? The journey of especially as a DJ, as you know, sort of taking people on a journey. And what I found was, I sort of found the hip hop thing, kind of dance and hip hop kind of merged in the 90s. I got really heavy into rock in the 90s too, because rock was just, in Canada especially, rock was just killing it. Yeah. And then there sort of became like this sort of pop thing that happened, and it sort of, everything became pop rock, pop dance, pop, you name it. And country music at that time wasn't even in my sort of realm. But then towards the end of the 90s, my dad actually started a country act in the late 90s, early 2000s called Little Rock. And it sort of happened because Colin Ray actually had put out an album. And my dad found it. We were on a trip in Florida, and my dad sort of came across this Colin Ray CD. And both of us were like, wow. And we would listen to this thing because at that point we were driving to Florida. We fly now, but we were driving to Florida, and so we had lots of time on our hands. And so we would listen to this CD cover to cover, and it was just so good. And my dad's like, this is country? And he knew a few people, and he got them together, and Darren Walters from the Walters family recorded it at his studio. And it was incredible, and that was my dad's first experience with session musicians, which blew his mind. Yeah. And there's some, again, mutual connections there with Jay, because he knows Chappie, and so Chappie played on the album. But it was interesting to watch, because I was a kid watching my dad sort of going through this, and I'm immersed in doing lights for rock bands on festivals, and I'm DJing in the club scene, and here's my dad doing this country thing. And then I realized through starting to listen to a bunch of the music myself that, oh, wow, this is totally taking people on a journey. And there's real stories here, and there's real emotion here. Yeah. And I had been sort of longing for that in some of the music that I had been listening to. And I was getting a little bit older. And so I started listening to some of the artists that were sort of really breaking through the pop scene at that time. So like Keith Urban would have been one of them. But there's a bunch of these artists that were really kind of coming up in this sort of new country realm. Yeah. And that's when I sort of found it. And so, I'm now, I've been to Nashville a bunch of times, got some friends down there, done all the touristy things there is to do. But I was listening to some Johnny Cash last night. Like I listened to everything. Yeah. Always did. Oh, Frank Sinatra to, everything. But I just love how the music makes me feel. I like how it takes you on a journey. I like how it's real life. How the songs and the stories are real life. Yeah. And I don't think you have to be like a country fan to enjoy some of the music that these artists are putting out. I don't think I think sometimes people want to put labels on things. Mm-hmm. A good song's a good song. Yeah. And the person's voice, like I said, 20 seconds with Josh, and I was like, yeah, man, that's killer. Yeah. And I don't know nothing about the kid, right? But I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot to be said about country and how it can do what you're saying in Quebec and break through.
It's been really interesting when I was younger, you listened to rock, and you listened to ACD, Led Zeppelin. And if you listened to country, you either got ostracized or you got beat up.
Yeah, I know.
And now
you know why I told the story.
Exactly. And now I look at my niece and nephews. They're going to Boots and Hearts. They're going to country festival, and then they'll go to a rock festival.
Yeah, it's cool now, right?
You can dabble in any genre of music that you want to. It's been crazy to see that happen on the demographics of country. It's not just country and western anymore. Yeah. When I started this label in 2008, there was Ron Kitchener at Open Road Recordings in Canada, Rob Smith at Royalty Records, and nobody else. Mm. the majors did not sign country acts at all because it just wasn't popular.
No.
And now, if you look at the landscape today, there's numerous independent labels out there. The majors were in a signing spree for Canadian country acts. They're trying to back off a little bit now and let the independents do it again, which is great for me. But yeah, this genre is the hottest genre, one of the hottest genres out there next to hip hop in terms of listener appeal and just what's going on. And I think there's a reason for that. I think, Taylor Swift moving from country to pop opened up a lot of people's eyeballs. Blake Shelton being on The Voice opened up a lot of people's eyeballs.
Luke Bryan.
Keith Urban being on American Idol. Luke Bryan being on American Idol. Carrie Underwood being on. It's homogenized country music that it's okay. And now you look at Post Malone. Everybody out there now wants to have a piece of country music because they know the pie is so big.
It is. And it's people who are hugely dedicated to music too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, some of the people that I've got the fortune to got to meet or hang out with or talk to or associate with in the country realm, they're just super passionate people, man.
Yeah.
And they're all in, know, when they're all in, once they get past a certain point of all that fear and stuff we were talking about, once they're all in, and there's nothing that replaces that.
Yeah.
I actually, once in a while, I'm not a big fan of watching TV. I do a lot of, podcasts and things like that. But one of my things that I do once in a while is I'll watch like the highlight reels from, American Idol or one of those shows, right?
Yeah.
And, I love all genres. I do. But, there's something about some of these artists, man, that come out of these small towns. Me and Jay Allen talked about this. Some of these artists, it's just something so raw and authentic and passionate about those people coming from nothing, you know? And how am I going to do this? Even when you started this conversation, you're like, here I am, this kid from Niagara, and how am I gonna get to a major? Everybody, and you, like you admitted, you don't play an instrument. I mean, it's the industry is made up of all kinds of people doing all kinds of things, and everybody is pushing in the right direction. Everybody's passionate, but some people really want it, And I think that's the thing I find with country music is the people that really want it, that really got, put in that extra effort to get that secret sauce going, and some way the universe connects them with people like yourself, and the rest is history.
Yeah, there are also the opposite of that as well too, where the genre attracts some snakes.
Do those people continue? Do they end up having careers, or do they
have short-term gains?
Yeah.
Long-term, because once it's out that you're a snake or a rat, you can't put lips on a pig.
Yeah.
You can't.
And it's 2 degrees of separation, and especially in Canada.
In Canada, because the industry is so small, everybody knows what's going on with everybody. There's no secrets. So
well, it's like you said. You're like, hey, who's this girl? And you're emailing all these people that 2 degrees of separation. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I love where the genre is at. I hate where the genre is at because it's hard. Like it's always hard. It's never easy. But my philosophy has always been passion over dollars, best song wins, and hard work will get you to where you want to get to.
That's true.
There is still a lot of politics and a lot of games that are going on that limit your success on certain things sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And that's the business side of it, that it can wear you out after a while.
Let's talk about radio.
Sure.
Because you talked a lot about radio, and I know I wanted to bring that up. What's obviously from this conversation, I can tell what your response is going to be. But I was going to say, how important is radio? But clearly, no. But how, where are we at in terms of in your world? Where are we at in terms of radio versus social media versus YouTube versus streaming versus all these different things?
Oh boy. Is radio important? Yes, radio is important. Is it as important as what it used to be in terms of breaking an artist? No. It's now part of the puzzle as opposed to being the only piece of the puzzle years ago. Social media has revolutionized the game. You, as a TikTok person in your bedroom, can now make your own music, post your own TikToks, and create a career for yourself from TikTok. The major labels in Nashville are looking for those TikTok stars. They're looking for
Really?
that oh yeah, because all the work's done. The
Yeah.
fan base is already there. The problem I have, and this is what separates us from the major labels, is they're looking for the quick hit. I'm looking to create a career.
So is this why you're saying it's going back to the independents? Is this why you think
so.
that's happening?
Because they got burned.
Yeah.
They invest in, and I don't want to throw any artists, but to make the point, I'm taking a Canadian girl by the name of Robin Ottolini, who had a song called F-150. An amazing song. She got signed to Warner Nashville. She's not with Warner Nashville anymore. I think they dropped her after 2 songs.
Right.
There's no artist development there. There's no figuring out your chops on stage. There's no making mistakes. There's no technical issues where you got to figure out how to get through the song. There's no artist development in your writing, in your performance skills. None of that. We do that with our guys. From the day we met Josh Stumpf to the day we released the first single, be 18 months. That kid has grown immensely in that 18 months. But we've had to do all the back end work behind it.
Sure.
Because we're invested in it for the long run. That's the biggest difference.
So do you like, how does it work in terms of social media? Do you have the artists sort of doing some of their own stuff, or do you have is there people that you bring in to do some of that?
Yeah, so we have a social media strategist who's on retainer that will work with our artists to come up with ideas and concepts and things around either the release of a new song or a tour or just general stuff that they need to be posting to keep the audience engaged.
Sure.
Some of our artists are really good at creating the content themselves. Others need help. So we have a production person on who can take the raw data. Just shoot it on your phone, send the raw data, we'll create it for you, and then you can go back and scheduling it. I'm big on, and I learned this through Jess, having the artists control their own social media with the understanding of watch what you post and be cognizant of what you're posting.
Yeah, right.
Each artist has a different level of comfort with that. So with
That makes
Josh in the early days, he was really struggling.
Sure.
He didn't get it. On this radio tour, every day, at the end of the day, he would go back to his hotel room, take all the photos and the footage, and he would prepare a 1-minute recap reel that would go out on his socials the next day.
Nice.
He wasn't doing that when we first signed him. He had no clue how to do that. That's part of the game now in terms of,
part of the journey.
When I was working major labels and we were selling CDs, there was an invisible wall that was built between the record company, the artist management team, and the artist. So you could go to the show, you could buy the album and all the rest of that stuff, but you knew nothing outside of that because those people didn't want you to know. Now it's completely gone the other way, where you have to show too much of yourself sometimes, and people can see other sides of you. If you happen to run into them in a bar or something, like Morgan Wallen throwing chairs off it, like
Yep.
20 years ago, 25 years ago, there's no cameras to film that.
Nope.
Everybody's got
That's true.
cameras out. So that's one of the biggest changes that's gone out there. So social media is both a blessing and a curse because artists never had to do it before. Now they have to do it if they want to be relevant in the landscape, in addition to what's happening on radio, any television appearances and all the rest of that stuff. So it's like, how do you keep your fan base engaged?
Well, how do you build a fan base?
As a label and as a management team right now, we are spending a lot of time concentrating on branding and imaging away from the music, because all your social media is just driving to your song. Your fans are gonna tune out. Your fan wants to know where you got your shirt, where you shop, like when do you buy your groceries. That's the stuff that's captivating to them. What's going on backstage? Hey, what's going on the tour bus app? Like, what really goes on the tour bus after? Or what happens before the show? So the artist who
It's almost like reality TV, but one step further, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So any tours that we do now, we have a social media person filming content all day long. That's what they do. And it shows all those different personality sides and image sides that go into what an artist goes through in a day. when they're on tour. It's not glamorous. It's not.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the wheels on the bus go like this, and the walls on the bus go like this. So you're all best buddies, but, you know, you got 11, 12 people living on a tour bus for 30, 45 days. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot.
No, yeah.
But that's how you engage. And when you sprinkle your music and your songs in there, or you're promoting the songs that you really like and talking about other music that you really like, but it all comes back to yours, but it just can't be music. My new video, my new single just got out of this radio station. That doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Nashville. I saw on your sort of signature that you got Toronto and Nashville,
Yeah.
right? So what's your sort of take on you know, Toronto, you know, because obviously we're in the Canadian scene, but
Yeah.
Nashville's obviously the mecca of country music. So how does that work for MDM? Like, how do you sort of balance back and forth?
So in the early days, I had a Canadian flag in the MDM Recordings logo. And I'm a proud Canadian. I'm Indigenous as well, too. So I wanted that to be part of the branding of the company. What I found out real quick at that period of time, way back in 2008, 2009, was Nashville is Nashville and country music, southern genre, dominated by the southern genre thing.
Yeah.
And at that period of time, it was an old boys club in Nashville. And as a Canadian, you couldn't get a look.
Mm.
In the early days, I would go to Nashville with what I thought were really good artists, Jess, Moskaluke, and I still do, Chad Brownlee. And I would get A&R meetings. I could sit with these people, but the meetings would last 20 minutes. And I would be in my car and back in the driveway going, what the hell just happened?
Mm.
So gradually, we started to try and find people in Nashville that we could put on retainer to represent us. And at that point, that's when Nashville got added into our signature,
Yeah.
and the Canadian flag, for the most part, came out. We still have the red and black as our kind of red, black, white is our signature logo, but that was a reason for that, because as the genre started to grow, so did country music around the world started to grow. So we're now in a global music industry.
Yes.
Streaming has created that.
Sure. I
We,
agree with
as
that.
a Canadian label, still don't get a lot of looks in Nashville. We'll get support on CMT for video play. We might get the odd look at international playlists that are created by Nashville, Apple Music Nashville, Spotify Nashville, and all the rest of that stuff. So I was getting frustrated because in the early days, I was like, I got to get an artist signed to a Nashville label. I got to get a U.S. Nashville deal for my label. And I was beating my head against the wall. But what I was doing was also meeting a ton of people down there as well, too.
Yeah, right.
So one of the best connections that I have was a fellow by the name of John Marks, who stepped up for us big time with Jess, with Cheap Wine and Cigarettes. At that period of time, he was the music director at Sirius XM. He chose, because they had a trouble getting females to break through. So it was the tomatoes and lettuce, I think was what they called, or something like that. So he picked 18 females to watch. And as a music director, he started airing those songs on Sirius XM The Highway, which is the biggest satellite channel.
Yeah,
in the US.
absolutely. I listen to it all the time.
I remember Jess, like she was at my house, and we were in a radio tour or something, or a media tour, and I just heard her screaming, like, she's like, somebody had sent her a screenshot of her song being played on Sirius XM, and it was John Marks. And we became really good friends with John Marks, and I presented him with gold awards and all the rest of that stuff. He opened the door for us. But it shifted my way because we got to a certain level with Cheap Wine and Cigarettes in the U.S. We were number 33 on the top 50 on Sirius XM, and then it got completely shut down. Not because John didn't believe in the song, but he was getting pressure from the major labels in Nashville to go, what are you doing playing an unsigned Canadian girl? And I was like, oh, this is interesting.
There's the politics side
Yes,
of it, right?
Exactly. But as we continued to grow, and I continued to get introduced to, at that time, Stacey Cato, who was the music director at CMT, Leslie Fram, who was the head CEO at CMT, and then John moved to Spotify. And I was like, okay, I'm racking my brains trying to get a Nashville deal. I know country music is starting to happen in Australia. I want to be ahead of the curve in the UK, and I want to be ahead of the curve in Quebec. So we started really spending a lot of money developing globally in those territories. And now with a global deal with Warner ADA, it's streamlined all of our marketing metadata setup stuff. And we get more support out of the US now because we're getting amazing support out of Australia and UK and what we have going on in Canada.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's changed the whole dynamic. And now I don't really, like, I'd love, to have Josh or Savannah, Jade or the Radio Valleys get a U.S. deal would be amazing to me. But it's not the be-all, end-all anymore because we've proven it with Chad Brownlee, with Tyler Joe Miller, with Jess Moskaluke, that it's okay to be Canadian and a Canadian country artist.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, but you make a pretty good living.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah, that's cool.
And you can. Jess still lives in Rocanville, Saskatchewan, which is 2.5 hours from Regina Airport. She has been driving that one-lane highway for 15 years.
Wow.
2 times a week, 3 times a week in the summertime when she's going back and forth on festival dates and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, that's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, but I love hearing that, man. I mean, I've interviewed different people on the show that have said different things, and some people say, you got to go down to wherever the genre is big to be successful. Some people say no. Some people say, you can do it from anywhere now because of the internet. Different people say different things based on their sort of journey, right?
We do spend a lot of time down there. Obviously, the publishing companies are down there. So if we're scouring for a writing trip for Josh or for Jess or for any of those, we're down there quite a bit. We send the artists down quite a bit for writing trips. But now there's becoming more pop-up showcase type opportunities that you can play. We had Jess and Savannah Jade on Ward Gerther's Whiskey Jam a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And there's a lot of Canadians there. And Ward also works at Apple Music. So you get into Apple Music Nashville as well, too. You don't make money on the showcase. It's a loss because you got to pay your band and all the rest of that stuff. But you get to play, and it's a talking point. And anytime you can come back to Canada and put the word Nashville or place Nashville into your conversations, for some reason, people's eyes perk up. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely a voodoo to all that for sure, and there's a lot of people that I know from the scene here that have sort of made their way down there, and some of them have come back, but not even half. I would say a bunch of them have stuck it out down there.
Yep.
Some of them are trying to make a go as artists. Some of them are players, session players. Some of them are writers going down doing the publishing thing, like you said, right? I know Jade was doing some publishing stuff down there too. But yeah, it's a crazy town. It's a cool town. It's a crazy town. It's changed a lot. A lot. Big time. Even since I've been there, probably it's changed too. Because I've heard there's been a whole bunch of new bars that they've opened up, and but it's there's a lot going on down there too, even behind the scenes. There's a lot of relationship stuff that you can form down there too, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah. Well, with us now, with our deal with Warner ADA, we just have support down there in Nashville now. We have somebody, in addition to, I still want to have somebody on our team who can converse with Warner ADA and can go pitch our story to the Spotifys and the Apples and the Amazons and all the rest of that stuff and go in and CCMT. And we've had a few people. It just hasn't worked to the level that I want it to. But I have a new person that I'm kind of talking with right now that I think could do it because he's already got the built-in relationships. He was one of the first people I ever met when I went to Nashville back in the day, and he will help. But for us, our focus is doing what we do in Canada, but getting to Australia, getting to the UK. Germany's on my hit list now. The Netherlands, Switzerland, and Finland, Scandinavia, it's all starting to happen there.
Wow.
I want to be ahead of the curve the same way I was when we signed Five Roses as an English act coming out of Quebec. Because if you get in on the bottom floor, your competition has to catch up. So I'm getting people calling me all the time now going, how did you do that in Australia? How did you do that in how did you put that tour together? Like, how did that all work? It's like, I'll give you some of the secret sauce, but I'm not giving it all to you.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out. Same way that I had to figure it out.
What does touring look like for you? Like because I talked at one point years ago, I talked to Cardinal about touring in hip hop, and he said, "Yeah, touring in hip hop in Canada is like 14 shows." he's like, and then you're lucky to get that. He said, so that's why a lot of the hip hop stuff gets signed out of New York because there's because he's with Universal and Universal's all the hip hop stuff's out of New York. Yeah. So, what does it look like because the difference I would say, in my opinion, in country, like you're talking about where Jess still lives. I mean, the cool part about country music in Canada is we got a lot of country out west, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of people that listen to that genre. But what does country touring sort of look like in Canada?
So there's you have 2 seasons. You have festival season, and then you have touring season, which is usually the fall or first 4 or 5 months of whatever the year is. That's where you can play your headline shows, your bars, your clubs, your casino runs for country music. And then there's a ton of community centers that are out there as well too. So if you want to get into self-promoted shows where you just rent the community center and sell tickets and do it all yourself, you can do that. So once you've built a name for yourself, you can tour, and you can play the festival scene, and at a certain point you'll start making some money. And we're so lucky in this country in that we have amazing grant and funding systems in place to support not only the labels but support the artists for touring and marketing and promotion and advertising and all the rest of that stuff. And if you can get yourself qualified to where you're starting to attract some grant money for touring as well too, all of a sudden that $500 gig becomes a $2,600 gig. Well, now you can actually maybe bring a player or two from your band, as opposed to what we did in the early days with Chad and Jess. Was we had a different band in every province.
Oh, really?
Because we couldn't afford to fly her band, because her band is some
that's
from
crazy.
Ontario, some was from Regina, some was Alberta, and we just couldn't afford to do it.
Wow, that's wild. I never heard anyone say that before. That's cool. That's crazy.
Yeah, we would do that. So their rehearsal would literally be, you would hire the guys. The festival date is Saturday. You're on stage at 4:00. We're meeting in the trailer at 1, and it's locked down. And you just run through the tunes for the first time as a group, and then go out and play the show.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, we did that quite a bit.
Wow.
And at that point,
you must have had some talented players, man, to be able to do that.
There's amazing players in Canada, province to province, and once you tap into them, you start to get a handle on which ones are the ones that you really need to be, which ones are really committed to helping you put on a great show. So, and that's one of the biggest differences when you're a young developing artist and you're hiring a band like that. You're just doing songs. Jess now is at a point where she has a fully polished show with a bunch of guys that have been with her, some of them since day one. And they know each other inside out, and they've choreographed a show that works, as opposed to just trying to do 45 minutes of songs to not mess up and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going to write a book when this is all over, somewhere down the line. I'm going to have a ghostwriter write a book, because there's just so much that I've seen it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, the crazy stuff that's happened along the way.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's insane. And it's like every time I think I've seen it all, something happens where it's like, wow, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. And then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters, man. There's a lot of characters in this journey of music.
I will never forget, just to go back to this, learning the show in the trailer. Chad Brownlee was touring. It was summer festival stuff. And they were playing in the Calgary Stampede and flying that night to Cavendish in PEI. And his bass player was having some eye troubles.
Uh-oh.
And when they landed in Charlottetown, PEI, he went directly to the hospital, and his retina had detached.
Oh, my gosh.
So you
crazy.
can't find a bass player.
Yeah.
Like, he's in the hospital. Like, he can't move. He cannot do anything.
Oh, my gosh. That's
Chad
crazy.
just paid a pretty decent chunk of change to do this show. So I'm in Charlottetown. I'm like, we're sitting in the trailer, and our guitar tech and front of house guy goes, well, I know the show. Can we give it a go? And I'm like, you play bass? Because I knew he was a guitar tech. And he's like, yeah, I just don't do it very often. So literally, locked down in the trailer. For 2 hours, they ran every song and got to a point where he went out and played bass in front of, it's Cavendish, 4:00 slot. There's 30,000 people out there.
Wow.
Nobody knew.
That's wild.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
I'm standing stage going, I can't believe this is happening. Crazy.
That's
Crazy.
wild. Yeah, I've got some of those kind of stories too, man.
We all do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. I got some from in town here, Rock the Park. We did a hip hop show and with Ja Rule, and half the crew didn't make the plane. And the guy that's supposed to run the tracks, because the tracks and the video are all together, and the guy that's supposed to run the tracks wasn't there. And the manager knew the tunes, but he didn't see very well. And they had a laptop with all the stuff on it, but none of it was labeled. And none of the songs were together. So there was an intro, a song, and an outro, and they were all separate files, and none of them were labeled, and none of them were in order.
Unreal.
And so, and we're the promoters at the door, banging on the door, going, "You got to go on." And everybody's looking around, going, "Who's going to run this show?" Like the lighting guy on the show and the video director on the show are in the trailer because they're trying to figure out, is this something we can trigger from our gear?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. And thankfully, I grew up listening to Ja Rule's stuff, and I grew up listening to his stuff with Ashanti, and I knew all the tunes. And so they're all looking at me going, "Okay, you got to do it then." And I was production managing that day on stage, and I'm like, "All right." And Ashanti's in the trailer. She's still changing, and I don't even know where Ja Rule is at this point. And you know, and I literally, there's, I don't know how many people around me, probably a dozen. I just pick up this little 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I'm like, "Okay, we're going. Where's your power supply?" I turn around. She's half dressed. She's, you know, trying to get ready, and it's right there. And I grab it, and out we go. And everybody, it's like a train because we're late to get on. And everybody follows me. And we were already late that day for the show because we had a rain delay, it was a thunder and lightning. So we had to clear the park, and so we were already behind. And so anyway, we go up there, and I sit the laptop down on the table, side stage, plug it all in. And I'll never forget it. The manager kind of looks at me. He goes, "You good?" And I'm like, "Let's go." And that was it. And they gave me a piece of paper that had the set list on it. Yeah. And I faked it till I made it, and we made it. And when they came off stage, Ja Rule gave me a bro hug, and Ashanti came up and hugged me. And I swear her whatever assistant girl, I swear she was going to faint. She's like, "She never hugs anyone." And they, you know, so we hung out afterwards, and it's like, man, that was incredible. Like, I don't know what we would have done. Yeah. The dancers showed up minutes before they walked on stage. They thankfully got on a different flight and somehow made it. But the crew never made it. It's crazy. The whole crew never made it.
But that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like I'm always stressed, like when our guys are on the road and festival circuit, especially when you're banking 2 or 3 in a row, where you're counting on the airline system in this country, which some days it works, some days it doesn't work. It's scary, man. It's scary, and there's a lot of
especially if you're traveling with instruments, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're some of these, you know, these guys. I mean, the DJs, it's easy because everything's in a backpack, but. Yeah. You know, another thing people in the public don't think about is, like, you know, that the whole backline thing, you know, is a thing. And there's a lot of people that don't even realize that's a thing. Mm-hmm. And there's some bands that don't even travel with their own guitars. That freaks some people right out. They're like, how can they not be playing their own guitars? Hey, man, those guitars, if they're old enough, they're worth a fortune. And have you seen the airline system? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
You know, but touring... so are you guys are you gonna, because you mentioned Australia and England and all that, do you have plans to go and do some shows in those areas? Like, is that happening?
Yeah, we've been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jess has been down to Australia twice. I've been down 3 times. She's played festivals over there, and we've done the media tours and all the rest of that stuff, and the plans are to go back.
Amazing.
We did that tour with the 4 artists there as a one-off. Jess has played C2C Festival and Long Road Festival in the UK. And the Red Hill Valleys, who we didn't talk about, who's my kind of alt-country roots rock thing, we had them go over to the UK. They did Americana Fest first, and then 6 weeks later went back again for C2C. They were the only Canadian act to play C2C last year.
Let's, Jared, let's pull that up. Let's give them some love. We were right. They were the only one that...
So our mandate with our roster is to first and foremost try and get them qualified for Star Maker as fast as we can, and then that allows us to tap into some tour support, and then at that point make the investment into going over into those territories, because Australia is a mirror image of Canada. Just played a summer festival there. We played Groundwater Festival. We went to Australia last year, and she played a show.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, my guys, my gal. She played a show in probably front of 25,000 people on a festival date in Australia last year. And it was great. We have a fan base over there. She's had a #1 single over there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working it. Like we've got our whole separate team in Australia, like through Warner ADA, but a separate radio media person who looks after us down there. And we're starting to get introduced to the right people who can get us on other festivals.
They got a great look, man.
Yeah, they are talented. I saw them at Boots and Hearts 3 or 4 years ago, and they were on the Sunday 12 p.m. slot on the small stage, on the front porch stage.
Yeah, that's ours. We do that stage.
Yeah. And they started playing, and I was like, "What is going on?" Because I just watched the kids coming in droves, and I'm like, I've never heard of these guys. And I saw them backstage, and I went out and I watched their set, and I was filming it, and I was sending it to Mitch Merritt back in Vancouver. I'm like, I really like. There's something here. Like this, it's edgy. It's like she looks great on stage, and we were in catering after the show, and I went over and introduced myself, and I said, like, you guys are like Little Big Town on cocaine. Like it's the harmonies are all there, everything is there, and that kind of started the conversations of coming with us, and they've been with us ever since. It's a little bit of a different beast because you're playing in the alt country roots. Americana world, which doesn't necessarily embrace itself within pop country radio.
Yeah, right.
So it's a little bit of a longer road. It's a little bit of a different road, but it's been kind of cool to learn that as well too, along the way. And I'm just big fans. Like they're talented musicians. And they're a band. Like they've got the van. The van is all decked out to carry all their gear and all the rest of that stuff. And they're ready to go. They just want to play. They just get us on stage, and we're starting to get them to a place where they're starting to make some decent money, and hopefully we can just continue to grow them and move them forward. Yeah,
that's so cool. You were on. I saw in your bio you were on the board for CCMA and SEMA, right? Mm-hmm. We talked a lot. You mentioned a bunch of times about Junos and CCMAs and things like that. CMAOs, which we've been a part of as a production company, great group of people. How important are those shows and those organizations as far as, having a career in country music?
It depends. I think if you're a young upstart like a Savannah Jade or a Josh Stumpf, those shows, weekends, whatever they are crucial to building an industry fan base for you who can help accentuate your career forward, whether that's radio personnels or festival buyers and all the rest of that stuff. Once you've gone through the system and the cycle, whatever that is, 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 times, it becomes less and less. You still have to be visible, you still have to be there, but it doesn't move the needle as much as what your first, for Jess, for example, she won 3 female artists in a row at the CCMAs.
Wow.
And we just went like this.
When was this?
15, 16, 17.
Jesus.
And then we won the Juno for Country Album of the Year. It was a rocket ship. Jess is now 14, 15 years in. We're 25 singles at Canadian country radio. Another female artist of the year is important in that it would continue to show that she is the real deal, but it's not going to increase her money so much on the festival circuit and all the rest of that stuff.
Right.
Might help her get to the next level of rooms in Canada. But her game is her CCMA weekend is a totally different weekend than the Josh Stumpf weekend or Savannah
that makes
Jade
sense.
weekend.
Yep.
Just because she's established, and everybody knows her. She has a different vibe going on when she shows up the CCMAs than what Josh does. Where Josh is like deer in the headlight and everything's brand new and all the rest of that stuff. And that's kind of fun. That's what I love that part of it. Are they important? Yes. Do they move the needle? Yes and no.
Yeah, it depends on
And
where
the
you're at.
politics behind the scenes.
And that's where you come in, right? To try to help navigate some of that.
Oh, it gets harder every year. Like when I started, nobody cared about country music. Now everybody cares about country music, and the CCMA is mandated to help and support, but they've also got a television show that they need to put bodies in seats. And how do you do that? Well, I'd like to think we have a star system in Canada. It's not as good as what it could be. I think,
What's it missing?
Stars.
Yeah. What's holding back the stars?
Radios, CanCon rules and regulations are a blessing and a disguise. We don't have the marketing money to be able to market the same way that the U.S. acts do. And it's just, again, it's a southern genre as well, too.
Right. Yeah.
So fans are going to dictate to what's coming from Sirius XM Channel 56 more than what they are Sirius XM Channel 171 in Canada. Love them both. They pay a lot of money to artists and to labels. But we just don't have the right stars. We're not getting played enough. You get a terrestrial radio, if you get a Canadian artist in Canadian heavy rotation and you have an American artist in international heavy, they're getting twice as many spins.
Right.
That's why it's exceptionally difficult for Canadian acts to go number one. Because you have to call in every single favor, and your timing's got to be bang on.
Right.
And there was a period of time where radio was supporting, but that's changed. So now you're back to a Canadian number one is usually number 6 or number 7 on the charts.
Do you think that that's because radio itself is having a hard time financially, and there's sort of, I guess, more, we'll call it politics involved?
I think one of the biggest changes has just been I like to call it beigeness of radio in Canada.
Yeah.
It's gone from regional stations where you could break out in your own home territory.
Yeah, that's true.
To one ad now covers the entire country for Stingray, for Chorus, for Rogers, for Bell Media. You have somebody in Toronto who's making those decisions. There's 6 to 8 people that decide what a hit song is in Canada at radio.
Yeah.
And if you can't get them on your song, you're done.
I had this conversation on episode 4 with Brad Gibb.
Yeah.
And it was right after Brad and Chorus had parted ways.
Yes.
He's with Virgin now.
Yeah.
But we had that conversation about when all of that got streamlined and what that meant specifically for country and rock. But yeah, I really did. I mean, I've grown up listening to a lot of the stations in this area. F96, of course, Country 107, but it wasn't Country 107 at the time. There was a lot of BX93 was actually the big one back in the day, right? But I mean, it's I grew up listening to those stations, and a lot of what shaped my tastes growing up certainly was radio. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
When it changed, I remember when it happened, and I listened to a lot of Sirius XM. So, for me to notice it, the change is saying a lot. But I noticed it. I noticed that the syndicated shows, and there was friends of mine from Toronto that all of a sudden were being played in London, and Hamilton that was being played in London. And I mean, that goes both ways. I mean, you have shows that are in London going out too. So, but you're right. I think that part of what we lost was you're not able to actually, become, if somebody really likes your stuff in London, it doesn't really matter anymore. And that sucks.
You really need to work the music committee. So there's various people at all of the radio station networks who sit on those calls. I know back in the day there was all types kind of talk about having to sort of hire a radio plugger. Is that still a thing? Oh, we have a radio tracker that
yeah.
tracks all our stuff. But we will also go. We just did it with Josh, where we went coast to coast, and we saw as many decision makers coast to coast as we possibly could. Radio decision makers.
Sure.
And it was one thing to play the songs, but it's also creating that connection. So, and buy-in. So for Josh, it's like, look, I know we've got something pretty special here. I need you to tell the other people that we're not going to see on this trip, once this song comes out, that this kid's the real deal. Because you've had the opportunity to not only listen to what the single is, we've drastically changed our marketing efforts with radio, where we're now sharing 4 or 5 singles in a row of thing that's going to come down the pipeline. Here's our strategy for the next 2 years for radio.
That's what Brad said. That's what Brad said. He said it in an interview. He's like, that's what we want to see. We want to see the roadmap.
And it's always been hold your cards as tight to your vest as you possibly can. So now we're sharing 3, 4, 5 songs. We're spending the money to get in to see you, to take you out to dinner, to do lunch, to hang out, to do all the stuff in your backyard.
It's crazy, right? Because in a world where everything technologically is like Teams calls and all this, streaming, and it's like the old school still is the way to go.
A lot of people don't do it. A lot of people can't afford it.
Well, that's it.
Big time expensive.
Of course.
It's
even when you saying things like, yeah, we just all got on a plane and went to the UK. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like the cost of that is wild.
Yeah, but thank God all of the artists that were on that trip that period of time had access to funding. So your costs are offset. And it was probably, did they make a ton of money? No, they all walked away with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. But we were investing their singles into the market.
Yeah.
So when we got there, there was a groundswell of audience who knew not only the song. That's one of the biggest differences when you go to Australia and UK is they know every song.
Oh yeah,
not just the single.
They go all in on the artist.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's cool.
We continue to invest in that stuff because it's important, and I want our artists. If we can't get traction in Canada, maybe we can get traction in Australia that forces Canada to get on board. And you see that all the time where bands have to go away from Canada, make it big in Europe, and then come back to Canada, and they're like, oh my God, we've just discovered.
Well, the same in America. I remember in the 90s, I worked with Justin Timberlake when he was still with NSYNC, and I got a chance to hang out with him in the dressing room at the time, and they had just come back from the UK.
Yeah.
And I said, and they were playing a club. They were doing a club tour at the time in Canada. And I said, what's how are things in the States? And I said to them, you guys must be huge in Florida, right? And they're like, they just laughed. They're like, yeah, no, dude, we can't sell a phone booth in Florida. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And, and I mean, look at them now. Yeah. Look at him now. But I mean, at the time, he goes, no, man. He goes, we have to leave home, go away, go to Europe, go to the UK. In this particular case, it was UK. Yep. Go to the UK. Become successful there, and then when we come back, people are like, "Oh, these guys, yeah." And so that's even back then. That was sort of mid to late '90s, and that was that was the thing then.
As much as this business has changed, it stays the same.
Yeah,
in a weird way. In generalities,
the culture of it stays the same.
You still have your gatekeepers. You have your gatekeepers like you had years ago at retail. You had your gatekeepers at radio. Well, now the gatekeepers are at streaming.
Yeah, like the mechanism has changed, but the mentality is the same.
Same. Yeah. So you're still just trying to build a human connection with the industry people that can move your career forward, and hopefully you find that 1 or 2 or 3 people that will go, I see what you see, and then you go from there.
What you have? It's the Harry Armstrong Award. What's that all about?
It's the Henry Armstrong Award. We're in year 4 right now. I started this when they first discovered the first 215 kids, residential school children that were found in Kamloops. My mother's 100% Indigenous, Lower Mohawk, Six Nations. I'm from Brantford. My father was of English descent. I'm 50%. I do have my status card. And it really, I don't know if I can swear on this thing, it really pissed me off that
you can swear on this thing.
Those kids were found like that, and now it's over 10,000 children that have been found through the residential schools. And I was frustrated. I was uneducated as an Indigenous person. I go back to still having conversations with my mom, and she would never talk about her childhood. She would completely blank it out of her mind. And she would just go, if anybody ever came up to me in Hagersville and started asking what nationality I was, I would say anything but Indigenous. And I always thought that was wrong, but I never understood it was wrong until the day they found those 215 kids. And I was like, oh, I see. Mm-hmm. You were afraid of being taken away to go into residential schools.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I am Indigenous. I am the president of a record company. I have an immense network of people that I know in Canada, and I can't fix the past, but maybe I can help shape the future for Indigenous artists in Canada and give them a shot. And
Amazing.
it was actually Don Amaro, who was an artist signed to our roster, who is 100% Indigenous himself, who I really leaned on to get this thing up and running. So the Henry Armstrong, my grandfather's last name was Henry. My mother's maiden name was Armstrong. And we started it 4 years ago, and we've awarded 3 $10,000 prizes and 12-month mentorship programs to the artists that have won. Kyle McKerney was the first year, folk roots artist out of Alberta. Kaylee Jade was second year out of Edmonton, folk roots artist, teetering on indie alternative, and City Natives out of New Brunswick, a hip-hop band, was year 3, and we're in year 4 right now. We will announce the winner for year 4 on National Indigenous People Day on June 21st, and it's a passion project for me. It's my own money. It's my own $10,000 that I put into it every single year, and it's just a way for me to try and give back, and I'm surrounded by a committee of people who help me run it and organize it, and anytime I ask my industry pals if they would like to be a judge of this thing, I've never had anybody say no, and it's just something that is, I just want to give back. It's my way of giving back, so yeah, that's where it started.
Wow, man. There's wow, that's a lot. Yeah, well, I didn't know I was going to get that answer.
Really?
No, I mean, obviously there's some heavy things in there, and there's some exciting things in there. You know, we'll start with the heavy, I suppose. You know, I had no idea any of that happened either. And I mean, how should I? Wasn't around. But when that all started coming out, it was mind blowing.
Oh,
like
it still is
mind blowing.
It's how we do not have simple running water in still over, I think,
Still.
it's 30% of the reservations in Canada.
And it was promised. It was promised, not to get political, but it was been promised by several of our leaders.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't happened. And I was doing I actually did a festival for a girl who was trying to raise money for a few years in a row there, for one of the reserves close to here for a pumping station. And, you know, good on her for doing that. And, you know, we helped make that festival happen. We put some production on it. But, I mean, again, at the time, I didn't know that was a thing. Right? And this is all, it's so bizarre because we're so focused on what's happening 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
But yet, 50 kilometers that way, there's a reserve with no fresh pumping water.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How is this possible?
Yeah.
In Canada, in this day and age, with all the technology and all this stuff, it's like, I'm like, this is mind blowing. So
the system is broken.
It is.
There's no doubt in my mind that I believe that the money has been given out to the reservations to get this done, but it's not happening. It's not trickling down. That's the wrong word to use. It is not funneling its way down to the people who can actually build this stuff.
Right.
Which is crazy to me, but that's what we're living with right now.
Yeah, and that's not just in the Indigenous community. I mean, there's greed everywhere in the world, and it's the opposite of some of the world we come from. We come from a world where everybody's trying to make positive change and take stories of negativity and put them out in the world so people can connect and learn and grow. And so it's interesting that we come from that sort of lens, right? Because we're watching this happen going, how is this possible?
Yeah.
So good on you for doing what you're doing and trying to create some awareness around it.
It's been a huge eye-opener for me, just in terms of the talent that is out there in the Indigenous community that just doesn't get a shot. It doesn't get a shot at radio. It doesn't get a shot properly on the streaming platforms. It is crazy. Like Kyle McKerney, and Kaylee Jade, you hear these kids sing, they blow the doors off it. Kyle is finally starting to get his due. Unbelievable talent. Unbelievable
I believe
talent.
it.
And the applications that we get, man, I would love to get this thing. My goal with it has been always to try and get it to $100,000 bursary so that I can offer out $10,000 prizes. But I'm so busy with the label then I don't have enough time to allocate to this thing to get it to that level. So for now, it's $10,000, but we're in year 4, and it is a recognized brand out there within the Indigenous music
Well, hopefully
community.
somebody watching this can help out, can
I'd
get a
love
hold
that.
of you.
I would love that.
And help out. I mean, I'd love to help out too. I have an idea that I'll talk to you about later on how I can maybe help out too. And
Amazing.
you know, I think it's I think we all got to work together, man. I mean, we're like the population of, I think, like Texas or Florida or something, you know, up here in Canada. We're not that big.
Yeah.
And we're really spread out, you know, obviously. And so, you know, there's so much going on in this massive country of not so many people. And but I think that, you know, we got to work together, and that's just what all of this stuff that's been exposed shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the exciting part about what you're doing is giving light to some incredibly deep-souled, old-souled, passionate artists. I agree. I've met some. I've just recently was talking to the guitar player from Logan Stat's band about Logan coming on. We did a show out at the Reserve near here with Logan. I didn't get a chance to make the show, but I was reaching out to people online to check out the show, and me and him just started talking. He's like, "Oh yeah, I play for him," and I'm like, I literally sat for hours one night listening to his music. And it was actually this one sort of intro song that was sort of really traditional song. It was Indigenous traditional song that I listened to. And it was right away, like, just like it was with Josh with me, like right away, within the first 10, 20 seconds, I'm like, oh, wow, this is unbelievable. Yeah. And it moved me. I got goosebumps. Yeah. It moved me so much. I actually got my phone out. I think it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. Got my phone out right away, and I messaged the guitar player. I'm like, man, this song is unreal. And he goes, yeah, we don't actually play that one live, but you know, but it's a really, really cool tune. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you should play it live, man. Like, it's really like, this is the kind of stuff that people need to get behind. It's such good. It's good energy. It's good music. It's so good. But I mean, love what you're trying to do there.
One of the things that we've tried to do with the winners of the Henry Armstrong Award too is showcase them at the CCMAs. So we do. In normal years at the CCMAs, we will do 2 events. We will do what I call an industry production type event, which is industry only. And then we will do a event, usually a party, full band party after the Gala Awards. And Kyle McCurney and Donna Mara wrote a song called "Let 'Em Lie," and if you get a chance, go check it out.
Definitely,
because I put them on stage at our industry event, and there was not a dry eye in the house.
I believe it.
Crazy good lyrics that just hit home with 2 undeniable voices. It was crazy. Same thing with Kaylee Jade. I put her in a room in front of a bunch of country radio people who had no idea who she was outside of her being the Henry Armstrong Award winner, and the whole room was just like, my God, that girl can sing. And I love that part.
And
if I can do anything to help them on their journey and get them to a point where they have a career in music, then that's what that's designed for. It's a helping mechanism. So yeah, that's
so cool. Yeah. What's on the future for you? What's coming down the pipe?
It's a loaded question. I'm 63 years old. I love what I do. It's exhausting. Running a record company in Canada is...
Especially when you're personally going out on the radio tour.
Yeah. You don't answer an email for 3 weeks. It's a tough go. Running a label in Canada is really difficult. Even though we have an amazing funding system in this country, and I'm working with unbelievable talent and unbelievable talent on stage and an unbelievable talent of support people behind me, it's a young man's game. It's a young man's game. So I still have the drive and the passion to break artists, but I would love to find myself in a position where I could have somebody else potentially run the label, so I can take a little bit of a backseat to that, concentrate on the Henry Armstrong Award, but also stay with artist management, because I really do love that, and I love finding talent as well too. It's just the rest of the nuts and bolts is 365 days a year. It's hard. That gets really, really hard.
What do you think you're looking for in a label manager?
Me, 2.0,
Yeah.
driven, passionate, hardworking, passion over dollars, honest, and just continuing on with what we've built, which I think is pretty amazing. We've had some major success over the years with things that we've done. We've won Label of the Year twice at the CCMAs. I've been fortunate enough to win Industry Person and Record Person 4 times. We've won a Juno. We created history with Tyler Joe Miller. Like, we have a laundry list. Jess, first female artist to have a platinum song since Shania Twain. Like, we have a laundry list of things that we've been able to do, and that will continue to go. And I just want to continue to be able to do that. I just need to figure out a way to not have it be all encompassing in my life, so that I can get a little bit more balance in my life, if that makes sense as I get a little bit older.
It makes sense, man.
Yeah.
We talked before we started the show about that, about how, I mean, I go to sleep on my couch almost every night still. And I've been doing this for 30 years. The grind is real in this industry.
Yes.
I was talking to someone who's extremely successful in it the other day, and they said, you have to love it, Ryan.
Yeah.
You really do. You have to love this industry to stay in it, because
Yeah.
there's a big host of other things you could be doing that would make money. So it's definitely not money that drives me or you or any of us that stay in it. Especially,
I mean, it's important. You got to eat.
Sure.
You got to put a house over your shoulders. That anytime I've ever done anything for money, and I've been presented with opportunities to sign artists who have major investors behind them, just no.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah, and I've had opportunities to have money put into MDM Recordings. I've never done it. It's been, for the most part, my own money, qualifying for grants, and the odd advance against sales from my label distribution partners that gets us through. And the rest, you just got to figure it out, man. You gotta figure it out. But when failure is not an option, it's amazing what you can do.
No doubt.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that's watching this that wants to reach out about working with you, how do they find you?
We're all over the place. The easiest place is go to mdmrecordings.net. There's a comment section where you can reach out to us from there. I answer all of that stuff. My email address is there as well too. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well too. I don't know what the handles are. Mike Denney wanted Instagram.com or something, but I'm there. I'm available. I listen to every song that comes in that's pitched to me, every artist that is pitched to me, every song from writers that is pitched to me. I do take a listen to that. I have an obligation to do that to the artists and the creators to take a listen to that stuff. I will always give honest feedback, which is hard to do, and nobody wants to hear their baby's ugly.
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta. It's the business that we're in. If I don't tell you your baby's ugly, and somebody comes along and says and takes you for $50,000, and everybody says your baby's ugly, then where are you better off?
Yeah, right. No doubt.
Constructive feedback. I'm not gonna get personal, but I'm gonna give you constructive feedback on what you've sent me, asking me to invest in.
That's right. Yeah, because you want to be, at the end of the day, the hope is that those people take that feedback, refine whatever it is they're doing, and come back to you with something solid, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I say this all the time. I'm like, prove me wrong. Like, I love when people 2 or 3 years down the line come back and they've made it and they've done it.
Yeah.
And that's, maybe I have a small piece in that. Maybe I motivated them enough to go, okay, I really need to get better at my songwriting, or get better at my singing, or my playing, or whatever that is. It's all of that stuff comes into play. But like, I can tell usually within 15 seconds if there's something there. Like we did with Josh in the car. It's 10 seconds. I was like, we got to meet this kid. And Jess was the same way. But I was the same way when I found Jess. And the same way when Jade came into my life. The same way it was with Tyler Joe Miller. And then there's other projects where you believe in it wholeheartedly, but for some reason it's a heavier lift.
Yeah, it's just not meant to happen.
Not everybody can be a star. It just can't.
Yeah, you want it to happen for those people, but it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the hardest working artists are the ones that it hasn't happened for, at least with artists that we've had on the roster over the years. Whatever it was, the songs didn't connect. They just didn't connect, or I don't know. It's just a weird business. This is the only product in the world where you manufacture it, and then the decision on whether or not that product is successful is made by everybody except you and the artist. No other business is like that. You
Yeah,
go
it's
into
unique.
your grocery store to grab a bag of chips, and you know that Hostess has paid to have those chips at your eye level when you're going through. I can do a boosted ad, but it doesn't. If I can't get the radio stations to play it, we're done. Or if I can't get the streamers to put it on a playlist, not gonna happen.
Yeah, back to the gatekeeper conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And there we go, right? And we come full circle, and it's all about the dance and the journey, and that's the part, again, going back to what we were first talking about, that again, there's so much that people don't see.
Oh yeah.
So much of it, and that's why I wanted to get you on here to sort of talk about some of that, because it's important that part of why I do the show. It's important that I think people out there of all ages, artists or not, I think the more they know, the more the better everybody can. The more respect, the more that everyone will have, the better they'll understand it.
Yeah.
Of what goes into this,
Yeah.
right? It's that when those artists are up there getting those awards, those, like you mentioned, there's a lot that has gone into standing up there. And I'll be honest, I mean, I've grown up in this business. Until I became an artist manager, I had no idea how much. And then once I did that,
Yeah.
I have a completely different respect for the people who are standing on that stage accepting awards.
Yeah.
Right there, to get up there sometimes can be a huge challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a crazy
One
journey.
of the things that I tell, and I do a lot of panels and all the rest of that at the various different conferences, is just for independent artists, it's like, learn. It's a business. Learn the business, because if you're unsigned and you've got any sort of talent, you're going to get yourself into boardrooms and into meetings where you need to know the language. You may not understand everything that's happening, but you need to have a basic grasp of, why is the music director having me play live in the boardroom and he's not even looking at me, he's answering text. Like, why am I doing that? For this is hilarious. For Josh, we wrote, and I'm like, okay, this is how I do it. For radio tour stuff, I just pay for everything. Normally, other companies would give you a per diem, but I said, we're going to get ourselves into some pretty heavy dinners and things with the people we have to do, and your little $50 per diem is not going to cut it.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, sounds good to me. He says, Mike, I don't even know what a per diem is. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is so great.
Yeah.
So great.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going. That and great songs. But networking is one of the biggest. The bigger your network is, the easier it is to get things done.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude.
Right
Awesome.
on.
Thanks
Awesome.
so much. Hey, everybody. Ryan here from Music City Live. Thank you for tuning into the show. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody.
Thank you for watching Music City Live. If you like this episode, like the video. And for more clips and episodes, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to join the conversation by commenting below and visit us at musiccityliveshow.com.